I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Welcome to Heroes 3, the bi-weekly podcast where three friends explore the best, worst, and everything in between in the world of Asian cinema. And this week we are taking a look at the 1989 Sammo film Pedicab Driver, starring and directing Sammo Hung, of course. And this is going to be the final episode for us, both for the Sammo Hung arc and for 2018, which is kind of wild. So
yeah, we've covered a lot of ground this year.
That's nuts. But in many ways, I think we're almost ending this arc on top. I remember when we were talking about the first film in this series, which was the first movie that Sammo directed, The Iron-Fisted Monk. We talked about how much of a sponge Sammo is, not only for martial arts, but for filmmaking and storytelling, and how he seems to evolve almost with every movie that he makes. I don't know if it's widely considered one of his masterpieces, but rewatching it recently, Pedicab Driver is just such a strong movie, I think.
Yeah, we've gotten a good taste in the different sides of Sammo Hung, I guess, so we've had his debut as a director, we've had the masterpiece that is Prodigal Son, and this kind of celebrity spectacle of Millionaire's Express. And I think that this film kind of shows that, he can do, I guess, kind of like a smaller scale, more personal kind of type story that focuses on a small cast of characters and kind of some relationship problems and stuff. So, I think that, I guess even though I didn't craft it that way, we got a good taste in these little different sides of Sammo, which is cool.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And it does almost seem like he's learned a lot of lessons from Shanghai Express and also all of the Lucky Stars films, which would have been, in the mid 80s just before this movie. And he's able to juggle a pretty large and kind of star-studded cast. It's a lot of the Sammo regulars. But this is, I think, one of the most kind of focused and more kind of tightly woven stories of kind of any Sammo film. Or it could just be how it was kind of striking me rewatching it. But
yeah, I'd agree. So 1989. In 88, we had Painted Faces, which is that whole. It would be cool to look at that movie at some point.
Yeah, it's a really difficult movie to get your hands on because there's a lot of. It's it was a co-financed thing, and
At one point, it was on Netflix, in certain markets, but it's not. But we had Dragons Forever in '88. We had Police Story 2. In '89, there's Jackie Chan's Miracles. So even with Jackie, he wanted to kind of try and do something different with Miracles, and then you can kind of see here with Sammo, he's I kind of want to do this. Small town, kind of almost like a mobster tragic romance kind of thing with this film.
Yeah, and also where it's there's still plenty of comedy in the movie, but it's maybe a little bit more organic and kind of springing out of character relationships and situations. There are a couple of these kind of maybe contrived little beats or gags, but not nearly as many as, just a few years earlier.
Yeah, it's definitely more of it's not quite as Looney Tunes as Millionaire's Express was.
Right.
A little more grand. There's still some silly stuff, certainly, but it's definitely not quite as wild and out there.
But I think the funny stuff got me even more in this film because of
there's really funny jokes in this.
Yeah, I laughed out loud a couple of times while watching this film.
And I want to give a real shout out to Barry Wong, who wrote the screenplay, and he was actually involved in the screenplay for most of the movies in our Sammo arc here. He also did a little bit of work on Yes, Madam, and I think a couple other movies that we've covered on the podcast. Really interesting guy. I honestly think this might be one of his strongest screenplays. Barry Wong, kind of like Lam Ching-ying, gone too soon. He actually died in the early 90s, kind of unexpectedly. But yeah, I just think the balance of this film, it's just really, really kind of beautiful. And this is one of the kind of small list of movies I would probably show to someone who'd be curious about Hong Kong films but didn't have any kind of background in it. I think it would, I don't know, I just think it translates as like a piece of cinema pretty darn well.
And it shares a lot of DNA with Yes, Madam. We've got a lot of the actors from Yes, Madam show up in some form in this film.
Yeah, actually, all the I guess no Choi Hark, at least not in front of the camera, but
Yeah.
but all of the other main characters, all the other male characters, that is, appear in some way, shape, or form in this movie.
And also we have no Yoon Biu, which it does seem that maybe Meng Hoi is playing like the Yoon Biu part.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically in the background of the production, but it is kind of, it's kind of a glaring omission at this point in Sammo's career to not have Yoon Biu kind of in a meteor part. But I think maybe what ends up happening is that really more of the spotlight falls on Sammo, and I think it's a stronger movie because of it. I think Sammo's performance, not only physically but dramatically as an actor, is just really strong here. But it's funny, this is the latest Sammo movie that we've covered, and boy, the guy is not holding anything back. We've talked ever since Magnificent Butcher how Sammo gives it his all every single take, and this is almost the most acrobatic we've seen Sammo in like this entire arc. It's amazing, man.
There are a lot of I just have to feel so bad for anybody that's set up to fight against him, because there are some hits in this film that look very painful.
I'm just glad that they very obviously double John Shum at the end, who's like the big bad. They have these several kicks to the head.
Yes.
And,
but like we should almost like have like a running list on the podcast of stunt people we feel sorry for.
Ooh, I like that. Oh man, that's so good. But I think other than it being, I think, just a standout, I would call it a Sammo masterpiece. I think another reason that people are drawn to this movie, it might be kind of at the top of the list, is for the fight at the sort of the center of the movie, which is this legendary battle, the only time it ever really happens on film, of Sammo versus Lau Garlung. And this is worth the price of admission. I mean, there's an outstanding movie on either side of it, but oh my god, I mean, this is a must-watch sequence.
I think probably the main reason why most people know about this film is because of that. And that's not to take away from the fighting towards the end of the film, because that's super good too. But seeing these kind of superstars on screen together, and the interaction between them and the communication between their fists and their feet and their stabs, like so great. It's almost like, I don't know, when I see that, I almost think it's like a Lau Garlong film in the middle, just for that.
It does feel that way. It's almost like, and you get the sense, I mean, and it's very common in Hong Kong and Chinese culture to really have a lot of respect for your elders, and definitely for anyone that you would look to as a mentor or master or sifu. And it does seem like Sammo leans into kind of a Lau Garlong filmmaking in this whole sequence. It's beautiful, man. Yeah.
But a thing that I love, and it's really interesting throughout the whole movie, it feels more, obviously it's 1989, but it feels a lot more 90s kung fu.
Totally.
The camera angles are way more dynamic, and that's a thing that's amazing in that Lau Garlong fight, is that you see him fighting, but it's in this more modern, for the time, style. Versus like the 70s kind of style that you see in Lau Garlong in most of the time.
Dude, I totally agree with you. And I feel like once again, Sammo doesn't get the historical credit for kind of like steering Hong Kong. But, this is a few years before Once Upon a Time in China, which is usually regarded as the movie that brought Hong Kong into the 90s in a new style of filmmaking and even framing and blocking and editing. But Pedicab Driver is so contemporary looking, and it's just kind of almost like peak Sammo choreography. There's so much power and intensity. It's it's not necessarily like light and balletic the way that a lot of the late 70s and early 80s kung fu films are, even though that's maybe my favorite style. But
Mhm.
there's so much power and weight to it, and there's a great balance of, a few longer takes, but then some really quick editing that's actually effective, that really works. In one of the final fights between Sammo and Billy Chow's character, there's this sequence where there's a series of fast edits, and it's unlike anything that I've ever seen, and yet it's so clear. You can follow. It's like from the direction of each punch and each kick. It's really like a beautiful, beautiful sequence, and I don't know. I think this was a huge influence on the other filmmakers in Hong Kong for kind of, how do you proceed with martial arts
Yeah.
when it sort of seems like everything had already been done.
Yeah, and I would say in the Lao Garlong fight as well, whenever you get some editing and some cuts, it's like they're showing you the anatomy of the martial arts of the fight.
I love
So
that.
it's like showing you, oh, okay, he attacked this way because of this, or this slow-mo is for this reason. And yeah, it's just like dissecting the fight for you without you having to really analyze it. And yeah, just having Sammo versus Lao Garlong, or yeah, Sammo versus Billy Chow, or Eddie Meyer. That dude's really cool too in this movie. And yeah, the fight with him, it's not super long, but it's just there's so much to look at from a director's point of view, from a viewer's point of view. It's like so enjoyable to watch these fights.
Yeah, totally. And like every other I mean, I guess maybe other than Iron Fisted Monk, we just get some amazing Sammo fashion and style. Like the end of the movie, he's pretty much dressed like a Paul Bunyan kind of dude.
Yeah, he's got a lumberjack thing going
The
on.
fight with
Actually-
Lao Garlong, he has this sweater vest that's
Yeah.
like amazing, and this is where he has kind of a shorter, almost like Mo from Three Stooges kind of bowl haircut.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
At the end, he's wearing this like black and red plaid shirt, and I was working on the artwork for Millionaires Express, and I'm like, oh, in this shot of when he's fighting Yun Bu, which is the outfit I was basing that drawing on, he's wearing a black and red like plaid shirt too. I was almost gonna look and say, hey, is he wearing the same shirt in this film? Yeah, that was funny.
Man, it's so cool. The other thing that I think it ended up being really fortuitous about this being the final film in our Sammo arc is this is his kind of most evolved perspective towards women, I would say, in like his entire
No, you're totally right.
filmography. And it's because we've talked before how in Sammo's films there's a lot of instances of women getting treated pretty poorly, and there's a lot of like on-screen violence towards them, and we have most of our sort of lead female characters in this film are in difficult situations, but there's at least an attempt at more of like a feminist perspective than anything else in his career.
Sammo's character's perspective kind of grows by
Yeah,
the movie,
totally.
which like we said in Prodigal Son,
Yeah.
it's kind of a similar thing where like, oh, that's really cool to see like actual character development throughout the course of this movie, more than just they're not just training their bodies, but also like growing as characters.
Yeah. What I love about Sammo, maybe more than like any other filmmaker, it's like he's this really pragmatic guy. Like he works really hard on what's in front of him, and part of being a sponge and being such a like quick learner is that his positions and his perspective, like you're saying, Matthew, they really evolve too. And I don't know, that's really exciting. And in some ways, like I might even have more respect for something like that than say a filmmaker that kind of digs their heels in earlier in their career, and it's like, this is my perspective, this is my look, this is these are the kind of motifs like in my filmmaking. You can definitely see elements that kind of connect his whole career, but yeah, there's this growth like constantly, and it's man, so rewarding. We're gonna have to do a second Sammo arc at some point.
Oh yeah, don't get it twisted. It's not like we're never gonna do Samo after this. There's so much stuff to cover that we're just kind of getting our feet wet, focusing on him this time.
Well, I think, speaking of getting our feet wet, I think we should dive into this movie. But first, let's take a look at the back of the VHS.
On the streets of Macau, the pedicab drivers make a living taking people to and from. A simple job bringing people together. Lo Tung and his friends search for happiness in the city. But when love shows up for a ride, you better buckle up. Director Sammo Hung takes you on a tour of tenderness and tragedy, all while showcasing some of the most explosive action in Hong Kong cinema. Max Mock, Nina Lee Chi, and Finney Ewan star along Sammo Hung with special appearance by Lau Kar-Lung in The Pedicab Driver.
This very first scene kind of shows us introduces us to all the characters, and also I think kind of sets a kind of crazy pace for the cameos in the movie.
Yeah.
In this very first scene, I think pretty much every major action set piece has some cameo, some character that's important, but we don't see them at all throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, totally.
And this time, at the very first scene, one of the first people we actually see in the movie is Eric Sang.
Yeah.
Who plays this butcher character.
And it's a
that's
great
chasing
little
after a cat.
foreshadowing beat because the camera spends some time on Eric, and like you were saying earlier, Matthew, about the almost 90s filmmaking. There's some really cool kind of Dutch angles on him and his cleaver,
that fisheye
and everything.
lens kind of thing.
But yeah, it's almost like Sammo's maybe learned some best practices for juggling cameos, and you can just picture him reaching out to Koryo, and it's like, look, I only need 2 days from you. Can you do that here? And same with Eric, and these guys are going to say yes unless they're tied up in another movie, which I'm guessing was the case with Ian Biu here. But and I love this set in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah, this opening shot's this opening scene is this. I think are they both pedicab driver groups?
So one of the groups is
or?
a delivery guy group, and then the other group is the pedicab drivers.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they're having a dispute here, and it's over who's getting whose customers.
Yeah.
Right.
So I feel bad for the guy trying to sell the pork buns.
Yeah.
Oh man, this poor dude with buns, because but it's one of these great slapsticky beats. He just happens to be interrupting this debate,
Mm-hmm.
so a few dudes from the delivery side just start beating him up. But then we said before, Sammo will just add these interesting details or let these moments play where another director wouldn't. And while they're kind of closing in on a final compromise, the guy's walking in the background. My buns, they're splattered everywhere.
I was half expecting one of the henchmen guy just pick up one of them and start eating it.
Yeah, totally. And actually, I think Sammo his character comes up with a really good solution, which is okay, if it's just inanimate items or whatever, packages and stuff, that's your guys' territory. We won't get in on that. If it's just people, that's our territory. And if it's people with luggage, it's anyone's
first come,
client,
first serve.
really. Yeah. But Eric, like we said earlier, he has a role to play here.
Yeah, so just when they're about to make their agreement, you get Eric running in. He's chasing this cat that ran after his fish.
Mm-hmm. With his cleaver.
Cleaver, and they take that as a misunderstanding of aggression.
Each side sees it as sort of this hired hand.
And this
then
turns
a huge
into
brawl. Yeah.
This entire scene is one long gifable moment.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But
so much stuff happens.
But maybe
in this movie.
the gifable moment to end them all is the only Hong Kong lightsaber fight in history, which is another. Yeah, it's another feather in this movie's cap.
The
there's
thing
so
that
many cool moments. Oh man.
Yeah, haven't had some good stolen sound effects in a while, so nice to hear those.
The thing I really liked about that is seeing them holding the light tubes, and me being in maintenance and stuff. I'm they'd be getting electrocuted, and then they actually address that because they move their hands and they totally get electrocuted. It's really good.
Oh man, but it's just I don't know, it's really cool to at least get a taste of okay, through Sammo's action perspective, like how would they render that kind of lightsaber fight? And it's a small moment, but oh man, it's awesome. And
It's
actually,
great.
like Nick Gilliard, who choreographed the prequel films, I think a lot of what he did, particularly in the first movie, Phantom Menace, like isn't too far removed from something like this.
I think so too. Yeah, we've talked about that before, and honestly, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. But one of my takeaways was like those, final lightsaber fights were very Hong Kong action to me.
Yeah, for sure.
We did gloss over a very important part of this film.
Oh man.
The first gifable moment to me is Sammo's his own butt.
Yeah.
So
Sammo pedaling on his bike and big old shot of his butt.
Yeah.
And no offense to Sammo, but I don't think there's a pedicab driver that's that overweight. Like, I don't think it's possible.
But
Well, that's what's
it
so
does
special
raise the
about-
question. It's like, how does Sammo, like,
Yeah.
we see how physical he is, and he's
Yes.
That's true.
in great shape.
Yeah, he's in
kind
great
of?
shape,
Right.
even though he's a big guy, but he can do these crazy
Yeah.
flips. And
The story I always heard was that when he was young, he was injured and he was bedridden for a while, and that's when he gained all that weight, and he never was able to get it off.
So
And-
he really is like big boned.
yeah, yeah. And then I think it's in Eastern Condors where he slimmed down a lot. So if you
Oh,
want to
yeah,
see
yeah.
Sammo like kind of at his slimmest on camera, I would check out Eastern Condors. But the thing I was gonna say about that shot of his butt is, to me, that looks like the Golden Harvest logo sounds.
Bum,
just
Yeah.
got to slow it down.
Yep.
Oh man, that's
Ugh,
great.
that's funny.
There are so many.
That's
cool
a dumb
beats.
video idea.
Yeah,
Oh man,
for
oh
sure.
that
That
would
one
be
away.
great. Oh, we totally should. But yeah, Sam was also so acrobatic in this sequence. There's that shot where he's like flipping over table after
Mhm.
table.
Yeah.
There are so many fun beats in this. One of my favorite moments is the dude that's fighting against Corey Yuen. He tries this like finger in the eye thing,
Yeah.
and Corey
I
like
definitely
just
gift that one too.
has his hand like on his forehead to like block it.
It's the
Um,
best.
But then when he tries again, it's like the dude moves his finger at the last second.
So good.
Yeah.
And then the
Oh, man.
end cap to this sequence is hilarious too, because Eric Tsang kind of confesses that it was his fault, and everybody turns to attack him, and in his way to
And
escape,
they all say something in unison
Yeah.
too, like, it was you. Yeah.
yep. He like leaps down from the upper balcony to the first floor, and everybody is just like, wow. Like,
Yeah, he's
they're
like
just-
crying about like, please don't do anything to me, and they're just like in awe.
They're just super impressed
Little
at
golf
his
clap for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really good. Really good.
Man. And then so we're introduced to, like you guys were saying, a lot of cameos here in this sequence, but also to a few of our regular players. So Meng Hui is playing, I don't know, I suspecting like what would maybe be a Yuen Bu kind of. I think
like that
Meng
read,
Hui
yeah.
is great, but it's like you could also see him cast as sort of a Yuen Bu light.
Mhm.
And then another person who literally was cast as sort of a Yuen Bu light, Max Mock, who's the really sort of like handsome dude on the
Yep.
pedicab driver's
His
side.
name's Pretty Boy in the subtitle.
Yeah, pretty boy in the subtitles. He actually replaced Yuen Bu in the Once Upon a Time in China sequels because
Yep, that's right.
Didn't return
Yep.
for that.
I saw that on his Hong Kong movie database list.
But yeah, he's great in this film, and this is kind of somewhat early on in his career. He kind of broke in the mid 80s, and the arc of his character in particular is, I think, like a real standout in the movie.
Mhm. So this next scene, we get introduced to who I think first time in the podcast, Sun Yuan. Has he been on the podcast before? I don't think
I've
so.
never. Yeah, we haven't seen him on the podcast yet. I
But-
would definitely remember his face.
Yeah, he's very distinct face.
Yeah.
He plays the baker, Master Fong, or Baker Fong, or Fong the Baker. He was credited a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
And I think this was his last
Yeah.
last film appearance.
Yes, it. When I saw it, it said it was technically his second to last role, but I think his last role was actually just like archival footage or something.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
So this is the last like actual filmed footage for it, for a movie. But yeah, he does a super distinct face, and he always has like this beanie on throughout the whole movie. Gives him a really distinct look.
Casting is so important for this character because this baker, kind of early on, you're introduced to him like leering after one of the girls that's working for him, and it could easily be like really kind of a disgusting, like turn you off sort of thing. And I do think as an audience member, you are supposed to be kind of reviled by him, but he also, there's something so sympathetic about the guy. And as the story moves on, it's like, it does seem like his heart is in the right place. He's lonely. He is pining after this girl. But yeah, plenty kind of happens to this dude.
He's got like a sweet sadness to him.
Yeah, totally.
And I think his like cartoonish features kind of help sell that, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think the moment when he actually approaches the girl that he's leering after, that kind of makes all the difference in the world, because at first you're like, oh, what's this creepy dude gonna do? And it's like he has power over these girls, but he's super shy, you know, and almost kind of like sheepishly asking her out. And
And the girl that he's asking out is played by Nina Lee Cheap, who I also don't think we've seen in the podcast so far. But she's actually Jet Li's wife, which I found out recently. Yeah.
Oh,
so
dude, I did not put that together.
One of those fun kind of connection things. So
yeah, very cool. Nice.
Yeah, she strikes me as someone who probably in another movie does some crazy flips and stuff, but you don't get to see it in this movie. So
actually, yeah, I was looking at her crediting, and the only thing that I was really familiar with was Twin Dragons. So the Jackie Chan film. She
Haley
plays one
Mills
of the
and
love
Haley
interests in that film.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, and I looked really hard to try to figure out what she's doing in this scene, because she has like this big like wad of dough she's rolling around on her hand and like slapping on like a.
Yeah, it's almost like she's making like a pizza or something.
Yeah, or like a tortilla is what I was thinking. Like it kind of looks like a little tortilla,
quesadilla,
but like some kind of like wrapper for a dumpling or something. But I looked and I couldn't find anywhere that said what it was. So
it's really boss too, because she's just like putting her hand like almost right against the stove.
Yeah. She's definitely, you know, she knows what she's doing.
It's nuts. But we should say that it's there's a gang of I think it's 5 or 6 ladies that are working in this bakery, and the boss has given them all excuses to kind of get out of the room so he can try to ask her out. And what they do with their time off is they put little pieces of incense in Samuel's foot as he's sleeping. He's apparently sleeping in like a neighboring room, and they're lighting them all up just to kind of see what happens. I don't know. There's something again about this beat that is like, it's just, really fun. And it's not something you've ever seen before.
Yeah. And it actually does progress things, because
Samuel tries to set her on fire.
Yeah. She shows up and he misunderstands it like as if she was the one to do it.
And so she's the only one that had sympathy for it. She would have stopped it if she could. Yeah.
She runs back, and then Samuel and Feng get into an argument. So that kind of establishes their relationship. How you know, it's almost like a father and son kind of deal, but they're also like romantic rivals. So there's this weird, there's
kind of a weird energy.
Exactly, weird energy. The other thing I really like is that he gets interrupted by like. He calls her auntie, and this lady was really interesting to me. I'm like,
she's
who
great.
is this lady? And I looked her up, and she is played by an actress named Maria Cordero. And this kind of goes into the setting of the film, because the film takes place in Macau, which is like Portuguese at the time. It was like a Portuguese colony, like within China. So she's Macanese. So it's kind of like this hybrid, like Asian Latino like heritage, which is really interesting to me. And she became pretty popular around that time.
She's like a singer, right?
Yeah, and like a TV show host and everything. And her fans call her Fat Mama, which I thought was great. But the other thing that was cool is that she plays Ursula in the Cantonese dub of Little Mermaid.
Oh, dude, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So like, yeah, she doesn't show up.
I love how we keep discovering people who did the voice for Disney movies, but
Yeah.
for the dubs.
Oh, there's some content waiting to be put together for that.
Sure.
That's awesome. But yeah, I love their relationship, and it's like, and she's just really slapping Samo around, and he's taking it. Again, there's this kind of respect for elders. Yeah, respect for elders. There are so many choice lines in this movie.
Yeah.
It really is like a late 80s kind of classic in that way. I love one of her responses to Samo is, "Go to hell, you little shit." And there's this kind of and it feels like a very like almost kind of uniquely Asian thing where it's like there's like a lot of love and mentoring, but also a lot of like physical violence and just kind of like, impatience and everything.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just this translation, but it seemed like there was a lot of cussing in this movie, like more so than the other movies we've seen. But maybe it's just the way that it was translated. But
Yeah, it could be. So I
know with a lot of
this-
those, like, I know a lot of like the early like anime fan dubs have cussing all over them, even though that's not necessarily
It does
accurate.
seem like a pretty strong translation, at least. I'm not sure how close it is to the original language, but it's very intelligible, at least on the English side.
A couple typos here and there.
A couple little typos I like that, like "you piece of slim," which is probably supposed to be slime.
Yeah,
You
there's
piece
like
of
only a
slime.
couple errors, but yeah. So
Let's wade here, but it's WADE.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is available on the Warner Archive, so you can actually order a DVD and they'll send. That's how I got it. So
that's so cool.
We'll definitely link to that, and it's a bare bones DVD, but still, it's cool.
The transfer is really nice.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So next little bit, we see some of the other pedicab drivers, what they're doing, and we get to see Pretty Boy again, and he he slams into a woman on the street.
Yeah,
and it's kind
runs
of
over her
shocking at
shoes,
first
too.
whenever you first see it. But he, Carlos, I liked your pun.
You like that?
He strikes her, but he's also struck by her.
Dude.
It's pretty good.
And he had been reading this romance novel earlier on, and when he sees her, he flashes back to this illustration from the book, and it's like, "Oh, you're the girl of my dreams."
Yeah.
And
they have a sweet little interaction.
Yeah,
it's like cute. It's like this whole situation, he takes care of her, takes her where she needs to go, then he buys her a little present, and while she's at the temple, she kind of gets this
and also it's like where she wants to go is the temple, and it's like the way that comes across is like, oh, what a sweet girl.
She's a sweet innocent church girl going to pray to Buddha.
And when she goes to the temple, she sort of has like her fortune told there, and she's told that, oh, you're actually the love of your life is going to bring you flowers. And I think this is such a clever beat. Pretty Boy shows up just as she's leaving the temple, and he has a package, and you're expecting it to be roses or whatever, but it's replacement shoes for what the shoes he destroyed, but they have these flowers on the tips of them. I don't know. I love that little detail. And this story here of these two characters, it's maybe my favorite part of the movie. It's also kind of covers the like widest emotional range, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well put.
That's a fun bit. And going on the complete opposite side of sweet romance, we get to see John Schum's character. And he is like, we haven't
having
seen
a
him.
ball.
Oh,
man.
yeah. He's chewing on some scenery. It's amazing.
Yeah. He's like the pimp. He's not just like the pimp. He is a pimp in this movie.
He very literally is. He's got
teeth.
gold teeth and everything.
But dude,
but he's not cool like a pimp.
Yeah, he's not. No, he's scary like a pimp. And yeah, it's fun to kind of see him play against this type, and also to he's playing against his normally more kind of fro-y hair, and it's like slicked behind his head. But the scene where we're introduced to him, this is a scene you won't ever forget. And I don't know, I want to say it's one of the more brilliant scenes of the movie. Basically, one of the women that had been at his brothel and her boyfriend, partner, or whatever, they've been trying to escape, and she's actually in labor, kind of in secret in this room. And John Sham as the pimp and a few of his henchmen, including Billy Chow, they show up, and they're not having any of this. And it's the only time I've seen this in any kind of movie where the woman goes from lying on her back, having contractions, to getting off the bed, trying to talk to John Shaw. Have you guys seen anything like that?
I did not. It's pretty wild.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. But then, yeah, what happens next is there's this really kind of brutal fight as her dude is trying to kind of defend himself.
Her dude played by Dick Way.
Yeah, Dick Way, who we see once again, and this is another cameo role. No spoilers, but he doesn't. He doesn't
make it throughout this fight.
But there's another thing that I've never seen in any movie, and I'm actually kind of surprised that I've never seen this so explicitly done in a piece of art, where her husband dies literally the same moment that her child is born.
Yeah.
In the same room. And,
yeah, really, that was my takeaway too. And John Sham's character just, addresses it too.
Yeah.
He dies and becomes a father both at the same time. It's so cool.
Oh, man.
Yeah. In my notes, I was saying that this almost seems like a tragic ending from another kung fu movie that they injected into this.
I was thinking this sounds like the beginnings of a revenge plot in another kung fu movie.
Right.
Oh, totally.
Where the mom teaches the kid kung fu and the kid grows up and
Yep. I
and then
wrote
when
that
they're
too.
older,
Yeah.
it's like they're cast by the same actor that was the father.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just played by Dick Way again.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I would totally see that.
Super good.
It also, this kind of helps the tone of the movie because it's like, oh, people can die. The dramatic stakes are really high, and Sammo ends up kind of playing with that just as far as you possibly could as the movie progresses.
Yeah, and John Sham as Mr. M is just ruthless. He doesn't have any sympathy for anyone around him. And yeah, you really get him putting his stamp on this film. He's basically this cartoon villain in this movie.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but I love it. He's just hamming it up the whole time.
And we get to see him not too long after this. He has a bit of a run-in with the Baker and Ha Ping are out, and has another little run-in with them, and he has a little showdown with Sammo, which is cool to see this early in the movie.
Yeah, Sammo has a great hero moment. It almost like in Iron Fisted Monk, when he kind of shows up in the nick of time to defend those kids in the courtyard.
Right.
And then we get an Indiana Jones chase scene.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I will say this chase scene is shot incredibly well, but it really emphasizes how important score is in a chase scene for a movie.
Yeah.
Because the music's not bad, but it could elevate the scene so much if the music was
and it's
done
this kind of
better.
it's sort of like early string sample mixed with synth kind of thing, and it just it's like that Uncanny Valley thing. It doesn't quite have enough charm. It's not quite simple enough, and it's not quite sophisticated enough.
Yeah, there's a beat when they do the kind of, you're just waiting for the E.T. parody, right? And they do this kind of slow-mo shot of him getting launched into the air. But I was listening to the score there, and when they're kind of making their way before they crash into the casino, the score kind of sounded to me like the love theme from St. Elmo's Fire. You know that song?
Oh, sure.
I linked it in the chat. We can maybe add it to
absolutely.
blog post or
David Foster, I think, wrote that.
That's right. Yeah. And I just was like, whoa, that sounds totally like that song. But yeah, so what ends up happening is they end up, unfortunately, crashing into a den of gamblers.
Well, unfortunate for them, very fortunate for us.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And
beautifully put.
Yeah, they get caught up in this madness, and even Mr. M realizes, he's like, oh, you guys are way worse off now. I'm just going to leave. So he leaves, and Sammo's left to contend with, guys in the casino, and their boss shows up, and here we go.
Yeah, their boss, who is Lau Kar-Long.
Yay.
Welcome back to the podcast.
This really cool, he's like, okay, well, you crashed in here and you beat up my men, I have to do something about this, or else, I won't be able to save face. So how do you want to handle this? Yeah, Sammo's so cool because, he, even though he's such a good fighter in this film, he doesn't portray himself as a martial artist. And Lau Garlong's character, the casino boss, he is definitely portraying himself as a martial artist. So you kind of have these two different ideologies behind fighting, and over the course of the fight, they kind of come to a mutual understanding. And that's what I was saying about how, when we watch Lau Garlong films, you're kind of seeing this philosophy behind martial arts, and that's really coming across well in this fight.
Yeah, because I think in Legendary Weapons of China is where I think Marty said that he queer eyes all of the people, kind of gets them to live their best life.
Right, yeah.
And that kind of happens here too, because he beats Sammo pretty handily, but still kind of lets Sammo go and gives him
it is
some
like
money.
a beautiful kind of Lau Garlong ending, and it's like, I don't know, I actually get kind of choked up like at their kind of final interaction.
Yeah, it's super cool.
But it also works for the story. I mean, you can't always have a happy ending over a really to a really brutal fight. It's rarely going to be plausible. But here, these people don't know each other. The fight is kind of this formality because of Sammo barging in, and they learn more about each other and more about themselves in the course of the fight. They each test the other further than they've ever been like tested in combat, and so it's like there's this mutual respect that comes from that.
I love how Lau Garlong looks in this too. He's got his hair slicked back, and he's got this really nice silky outfit, and he's always trying to keep himself clean. So like if he's getting dusted up, he'll like ruffle his clothes.
I just hope the audiences like applauded as soon as the camera turned to.
Oh man, yeah, for sure.
Their final lines back and forth are some of my favorite, because his final lines are, "If you're ever in trouble, don't come to me." And then Sammo's like, "If I see you on the road, I'll look the other way."
Look the other way. Yeah, that's great. But yeah, this is really like a masterclass in Hong Kong fighting, or just fight choreography, or just physical motion in cinema even.
Right.
Because it starts in this explosive way, and it's pretty high octane all the way through, but there are just some beautiful kind of pauses to catch your breath. And even though we start so high energy, the fight really does escalate, culminating in just an incredible like staff sequence. And we talked before about, Lau Garlong being kind of the master of, weapons choreography, but, staff choreography in particular.
And just the use of the set that they're working with, which really is just like a gambling parlor with a pretty much an open floor, but you've got a couple of tables around. But yeah, Lau Garlong uses, the wall and the table, and, so the staves that they're fighting with is actually like some kind of ornamental rods that are in the building.
Sammo knocks over,
yeah, and that strike of Lau Garlong doing this like front kick right to his face. It's like this slow mo, and we get a couple of times in this film, like in Iron Fisted Monk, where they do this kind of echoed, like super strong hit. So you'll hear the sound effect kind of reverb. Yeah, that'll happen in a couple of times in this film. And then so once they grab these staves, like it really becomes like this deadly dance. You see like every intentional movement behind their choreography, and how you have to be a master of using the staff to be able to know where a person's going to be moving and where's the most like optimal way to strike against them. It's like so cool.
And also the cinematography and the lighting of this entire fight, it's really beautiful. And like we've already said, they're both just giving everything they've got in this entire sequence. I didn't clock it, but I don't know, what is it? Maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe like 5 or 6 minutes. And the balance of like the serious like high energy fighting, and then these like great moments of comedy, just like these kind of like dots of comedy in the middle of it all are great. Like I really love Sammo mocking Lau Garlong's martial, his stances, and then getting kicked in the face. And I really love the play between Lau Garlong and Sammo with the staff, where he keeps repeating the same move 4 to 5 times, and then the 5th time he just waits a beat, and Sammo looks up, and then he just tags him in the head. It's it's perfect.
For some reason, that move like strikes me as like a fourth wall breaking thing about
Sure.
like Hong Kong choreography, and I just love it. It's like you're in this repetitive cycle. There's something about the way that Sammo and Lau Garlong look at each other after that, where it's like, oh, do we do this in our fight choreography? I don't know. It's wonderful, and I can't think of any other moment in a Hong Kong fight that made me think that way. There, it's like you're actually like making this kind of meta comment with the fight.
Yeah, I always kind of say how I really feel like it's cool if you can look up certain fights on YouTube, but like it's really cool to see it in the context of the film too. But this fight is so good that really I won't fault you if you just look up this fight online, because it's amazing.
And it also has its own like beginning, middle, and end. Like it could be a short film.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
This fight, yeah.
So they make it back to the bakery, and this is kind of where we seeing like the conflict between the baker and Sammo. He's kind of being kind of like, yeah, hey, this is my girl. Don't get in on her.
This is a cool sequence, and she's like trying to remind them of the friend zone that they ought to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, couldn't you guys act more like how my father and my brother would act?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. But then we kind of get a little romance montage, because we see Sammo and Nina Lichi fall in love, and we get to see Pretty Boy and the girl. What was the girl's name?
In the film, her name is Shu Choi.
Shu Choi, right.
Yeah. Shu Choi. Yep.
Oh yeah, sorry, the Pretty Boy.
Yeah, Pretty Boy and Shu Choi are together, and then Sammo and Nina Lichi are together. It's funny. There's this super cheesy like song playing while they're going to.
And it's one of those things where it's like, oh yay, like everyone's so happy, everything's gonna be great, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you look down and you're like, oh, we still got 40 minutes.
Well, and they also have these matching white scarves. There's that scene where they're kind of like sitting on this ledge. Yeah, it's a fun moment.
Yeah, so their buddy, he's kind of checking them, where it's like, yeah, you guys, with your love and the commitment and all this stuff, like, you don't understand, like, and they're like, oh, you're just like a player, you don't even know. And he's like, I know a lot about women, and he's kind of giving them stuff about their happiness. And what you see is that in the next scene, he ends up going to a brothel, and in this brothel
run by Fung King Man.
This
might be one of the later movies you see him in.
I think. Hang on, I wrote it down. This is definitely one of the last roles that he's in as well. But yeah, we've seen him in all kinds of stuff. We saw him a bunch in the first couple of arcs we did.
Oh, sure. When I was coming up with that quiz before I tallied up all of the cameos that we've gotten,
that's right.
I really thought that Fung Ging Man was going to be like the top one. And if it wasn't for Wu Ma.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's no Wu Ma in this movie.
Yeah, I know.
I was looking.
Because when I first saw the scene, I thought that the Fung Ging Ma character might have been Wu Ma.
Sure.
But then I was like, wait, no, that's a different guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, quick question for you guys: like, when you first watched the movie, how surprised were you by this?
I was pretty surprised. I was like,
me
whoa.
too.
Yeah, I think it's really
okay.
well done.
Yeah.
So their friend, who's just kind of all about being like a playa or whatever, he pays the brothel owner for some time with this girl, and when he gets in the room, Sammo films it from this kind of like bird's eye view, like, so you can't really make out who she is, and she's undressing and they're turning out the lights, and lo and behold, it's the sweet temple going girl that Pretty Boy's been falling for.
Now, I love that the reveal is that you see the shoes. That's the first thing you see is the shoes that Pretty Boy gave her. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I really was legitimately surprised when I saw that.
And in the scene before that, the guys have made a commitment to all get together very soon. So following this scene, the viewer's like, oh man, here we go. And sure enough, all the friends get together, and Pretty Boy introduces her, and our player is like, oh, wait, what? And
he's like trying to save face, for her and stuff initially, but it gets to a point in the conversation where he just has to let it out. And this also I thought was really surprising. When first seeing it, I don't think you're expecting it to kind of like all come out like this. But it's a pretty emotional exchange, and he tells them all, how he met her, and she admits to it, and
But it ends in a better way than I was expecting it to.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's like what's cool is it's like Lam Ching-ying only has a couple of moments in the movie, but they're
Lam Ching-ying's
moments.
in the scene too.
And so Max Monk's character, the Pretty Boy, he's kind of devastated by the news, and he's getting kind of hysterical, and he's saying things to her that he'll come to regret. But it's Lam Ching-ying's character he's really the most kind of woke character.
Yeah,
in the
I was totally thinking that when I saw him too.
And he has this amazing line where he's talking about the brothels, and some of the other friends too are trying to be more sympathetic to her position. Actually, I think Ha Ping kind of starts it off where she's like, if my life had been different, who knows, I could be in her situation. So then Sammo is kind of feeling that shame too. But Lam Ching-ying says, the girls are forced to go into it, but men aren't forced to go. In fact, men are responsible for all the whores. We've got no right. Yeah, and then he says, we've got no right to call them cheap. Yeah. In fact, we're worse than they are. And to have that said so boldly in like a Hong Kong
film
movie
in 1989.
Yeah, that's, I don't know, I think that's pretty huge. And it's also just a great character moment for this particular film.
Yeah. No, it's a really, like I said, it's a really cool scene that I definitely wasn't expecting after all of this.
And it's just a great use of Lam Ching-ying. Like, he has his hair kind of grayed up, similar to almost Mr. Vampire. And
I was going to say that too.
He just plays kind of like the wise friend so well.
And so after all that serious scene, then we get this like really kind of goofy and badly thought out plan to try to win her back.
So Pretty Boy's like pretty in despair. He like met up with her at the brothel, and they kind of,
that's a beautiful scene.
It's really good. And she's pretty upset, and then he's all in despair, and he's getting drunk, and his friends are like, oh, we gotta figure out a way to like get her back. So their sitcom scheme is to
they show up with his corpse, they throw it on her bed,
make her believe that he's dead. But that's not even most of it. It's like they want her to say that she'll marry him, and thinking that he's dead, and then he'll pop back up to life. Who does that?
Right.
That's a little manipulative, but
well, and also they let it play for quite a while before Pretty Boy moves, so it's too sudden for you to really believe it, probably, as an audience member. But they are kind of playing with like your confusion there, I think, too. It's like, wait, did he really just die? Or I thought they were gonna, it's cool.
Yeah,
and then they get married.
From a funeral to a wedding.
Yeah, it's such a sweet story to tell your grand.
That you're definitely gonna have.
Oh,
Before that, though, they show Mr. M and his father arguing about stuff, and Feng Yingman had arrived and let him know that he lost Shu Choi. So he's like, she can't leave. If she leaves, then everybody else is gonna leave. So he wants them dead now.
Yeah, it's basically she's kind of like upturning the entire like business model of a brothel. Because she's paying her way to freedom, basically.
I heard down that Feng Yingmang's character is actually a pretty solid guy. He doesn't seem quite as scummy as certainly not as much as John Sham's character is. But but of course the beautiful thing can't last, and we see they're kind of in like a kind of makeshift marital suite, I guess. Sammo goes out on the town and sees like this. He sees like this jade bracelet that we saw earlier in the movie. Kind of introduced that, and he buys it, and that was really sweet. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, he's doing a sweet thing."
Yeah.
And then the bad guys come.
Yeah, Sammo happened to leave at the worst time because these henchmen come and they sort of ruin this little honeymoon moment. And this is pretty brutal. I mean, I think, with the tone that Sammo established earlier with that pregnancy murder kind of combo scene. And honestly, I think even with the sort of joking about Pretty Boy's death earlier, there is this like shroud of death that's kind of hanging over the movie. And he really kind of plays and kind of bends with your expectations about as far as they'll go. I mean, early on in the fight, Pretty Boy is actually like cut with a blade. And anyways, it's just a brutal sequence because it does seem like at any moment either or both of them could be killed.
Yeah, and you see in the midst of the choreography that it's not like your normal Hong Kong action scene where everybody's got a knife but nobody's getting cut. This scene, both Pretty Boy and Shu Choi, over the course of the interaction, they're getting chopped left and right, and you're like, oh no, like this is really gonna happen. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of hope in this situation because. Well, and
also there are things that she said in that earlier scene when he was coming to try to win her back, where it's almost like she views her life as sort of like doomed or cursed. So it's like I feel like all these elements are kind of like at work in the middle of this like really brutal fight.
And you get the visual language that we're used to seeing in kung fu movies, where you get the critical like attack in on your opponent, or those dramatic slow-mo shots, but it's against this newlywed couple, and you're like, oh man, the visual language goes really far in selling the sadness of
and they're sustaining such like severe injuries, and they're like covered in blood and growing pale and really kind of struggling to like get down the stairs. So they make it out, but lo and behold, the rest of the crew, like kind of like the heavies, are waiting outside. So really there's like, it's looking really bad, and they end up bumping into Lam Ching Ying, who kind of like stays outside in like kind of like the courtyard. This is his other like great moment of the movie, although it's really brief. He wakes up just in time to kind of like take a knife to one of these henchmen, but is killed almost immediately afterwards.
That's really surprising too. You're like, wait, what? No. He's like, oh, I'm gonna die now, and then he just conks out.
It definitely makes me want to see more film appearances with Max Mock, though, because he does some really cool stuff in this scene. Like
he's got some action chops. You can see it on this movie.
Like
he's another one of these guys where it's like he has all the ingredients to be a huge Hong Kong star. And not to say that he wasn't a big star, but he's really kind of like classically handsome or whatever. He's really great in these physical sequences, a good dramatic actor, I think. But in many ways, this is one of his best vehicles, I think.
There's this really intense shot of him like wrapping this cloth around his arm so that he can try to bear against some of the knives while he has like blood pouring out of his head. It's a really cool shot. It's definitely it's kind of, it reminds me of like Hard Boiled. Like it's not quite as it's not quite as grimy as Hard Boiled is, but it's the similar like level of like grittiness that you'll see in some movies like that.
It's really intense. And there's also something about going against Billy Chow, who I feel like we must have encountered him in films before.
Yeah, so he's the general, like the evil general in Fist of Legend. So
absolutely. And throughout the 90s he's kind of the the Act 3 villain in a lot of movies. Yuen Woo-ping used him a lot in the 90s, but there's really this sense in this movie when Pretty Boy's going against him, it's like, oh boy, this is hopeless. Like Billy Chow is just almost kind of built to be this like arch villain. He's first of all so tall, his kicks are so ferocious. Yeah,
I was actually thinking, because Billy Chow's like a world-class kickboxer, and just his tall stature and everything, I can't, if I could find a clue, I would try and find it, but I think that Sagat in Street Fighter 2 has to be influenced by Billy
dude,
Chow.
I could totally see that.
Yeah, because it's not just that they're kickboxers, but it's just that he's so tall, like, and his form like really looks like how
And
Sagat.
he does punch with 2 fists at once.
Yeah. it's crazy. Like, yeah, I have to find some clue out there because I feel it.
Yeah. No eye patch though, unfortunately.
No eye patch.
least-
Well, okay, so all right, here we go. This is the other thing is there's this, I think it's a Wong Jing film. It's called Future Cops. Have you guys heard of this? It's
I've definitely heard of it. I
I've
actually
heard
haven't
it's
seen
like-
it.
about maybe about it.
well, it was like kind of like a meme for a while because there's like parodies of Street Fighter characters in that film, and Billy Chow is in it, and he's like the Sagat like parody. This is post Street Fighter 2, but I feel like there's kind of like this snake eating its own tail kind of thing going on here with that, but that would be hilarious to cover on this podcast. That movie is ridiculous. But okay, so back to the sadness. Samuel gets back too late and he sees everybody, like there's kind of like a group around them, and he has like this kind of silent final goodbye to the couple, and Meng Hui is there as well, and he's like all really in despair about it. And there was this whole thing going on about Meng Hui where he's a family man and he's kind of, he can't fight it like everyone else can because he has to think about his family. But there's a really strong beat here where they're just about to leave and you can tell it's like, okay, we got to get revenge. But then his wife calls out to him and he's like, oh, like she's going to tell me to come back home. But she tells them like, go, do what you have to do for your friend. So it's like this really strong beat of, like, hey, like this is really sad and you need to do what you need to do to get revenge.
Man.
It's pretty cool.
Gosh, Samuel's such an underrated actor, I think.
Yeah.
He really kind of pays off all of this crazy emotional energy that's been building up over the last like 20 minutes of the movie. I don't know, really, really delivers here. It's like a leading man. I mean, this is just one of the great Sammo movies for sure.
Yeah, he's leading us to the final encounter.
Yeah.
So we've got this.
He sneaks into this villain's lair.
Yeah, just like all these movies, man. We got our final boss's lair, and it's like a huge mansion. And man,
So if you're an evil henchman in a movie and you're going out for a smoke,
Don't have a mansion.
No,
Yeah,
so if you're going out
don't-
for a smoke, bring a buddy.
yeah, don't go out for a smoke.
And don't bring your dad who shares a death curse.
Sure.
Did we talk about that part of it?
I don't think so. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
That there's John Shum's character, like he apparently there's this curse where if he keeps his father alive, who he can't seem to stand because supposedly when his father dies, he'll die. It's kind of like Harry and Voldemort, like neither can live while the other survives. Actually, I think that's where J.K. Rowling
almost
kind of got
exact,
the
almost
prophecy.
assuredly where she got it from.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sammo walks up to this dude going out for a smoke and just drops him. Like this was like,
man.
we've seen some powerful hits in the movies, but this one actually made me go, oh, out loud the first time I saw it.
Yeah, Samuel does like this huge like spinning wheel kick, and he just, man, I don't care how good of a stuntman you are, like that.
Yeah.
That is painful. Like you just see it. Like doesn't matter if you're a double or not. Like
Yeah, or if you have padding underneath, your outfit, it's like, oh my gosh, that.
It's like when Bart's like showing Lisa the moment when Ralph Wiggum's heart like breaks.
You can
It's
pinpoint
like you can
the exact
see the exact moment when this dude regretted being in this film.
Choose you.
Yep.
We should put that over the kick. And then, oh, dude, one of my other, like, this whole final sequence is great. And actually, I think plays kind of the full extent of your expectations, maybe in a way that Shanghai Express doesn't. Like, I think the end of Shanghai Express is great, but there is a little sense that it's maybe not able to totally pay off everything that's been promised in the final fight. I mean,
for sure.
You're also juggling so many characters, and there are some great moments. And I suppose in this movie, it's all kind of funneling down just to Sammo's character. But at any rate, it's just, everything you would ever kind of like dream in like a infiltrating the bosses thing. But maybe my favorite thing, and I'm jumping a little bit out of time because I do want to shout out Eddie Marr's character.
I was about to mention that actually.
Is really really awesome. But after that, he and we can bounce back to that. But he's confronted with like this bigger gang of dudes, and he interrupted their meal, like they were in the middle of eating. And this is one of my favorite things in any Sammo movie. It's like he's looking at them one at a time, and they're all still munching on their food.
Yeah,
and it's just this crazy beat. Oh,
they're
man.
all in their fighting poses, all looking super serious, but they're all chewing their food.
Yeah, and every time they get hit in the face, and they just spew rice everywhere.
Well, and so that like informs Sammo's strategy, which is basically get him in the stomach.
Yeah.
So he's going after the stomach of like each of these dudes, and I don't know. It's like only Sammo would like direct this kind of scene. But yeah, prior to that is his fight against Eddie is
actually that
really cool.
that is right now. That's right after he takes out all the guys eating.
Great.
He fights Eddie Marr, and Eddie Marr has like superpowers, can fly because he's got all kinds of wires on him in this scene.
Yeah, that first like really like intro jump kick that he does is really cool, and they don't. Yeah, it's a wire kick, but it still looks really dramatic, and the way that they edit the shots make it look like really solid. But yeah, Eddie Marr's like you were mentioning before about Max Mock. I see him as like, man, why wasn't this dude in like a ton of movies? He's mostly in like we saw him in Yes Madam. He's like the first guy they encounter in the airport scene and that interrogation scene with Cynthia, and he's mostly in films like that, like these kind of girls with guns. That kind of
I kind of think
subgenre.
like. And it's like he's a like mixed race background, but I kind of almost wonder if he wasn't maybe too Caucasian looking to be like a viable leading man.
He's got such a striking look, though.
He does.
You know?
He's a very distinct face.
Yeah, totally.
And he's so proficient on camera. Like it's like, man, this dude should have been in everything.
And he's another one of those great moments where you're watching through the credits and just see a big Eddie Marr next to all these Cantonese names.
Yep. But when he gets struck by Samuel does like this pointed sidekick straight to his chest.
Yeah, and like high speed slow mo. It's a beautiful.
Yeah, that's another one
shot.
of these hits where it's like, oh, that hurt.
Yeah. And Sammo he's not the only one to really get some great action here in the end. Meng Hoi has a really nice sequence when he's trying to get into the boss's lair.
Yeah, we see him with like he finds like a sword that I guess John Sham just has laying around and starts swinging around because he's about to get with like I guess a prostitute, and he's being very, very gross and
he's so gross.
Man.
So gross.
Yeah, the lines
She's like, "What's that
says,
smell?" And he's like, "Oh man."
Yeah, and he says it might just be a translation because maybe it's supposed to say bathroom, but it definitely says that he took a piss and shit in the bathtub, and
it's got to be a good translation because she's like disgusted by it,
Because if it was another character, I would chalk it up to a mistranslation, but since it's him, it's like he might have done that.
Yeah. Oh man.
But he sees Mancoy and starts this great bit of him just trying to get away as he's just recklessly swinging the sword around.
And then it's kind of a cool little moment. Sammo's trying to use like Eddie's body as like a little like cover or kind of
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
But then John Chum realizes he's there.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a sort of like, I elect for a trial by combat. Or John Chum doesn't have to fight. He finally gets Billy Chow to like put down his
champion
his
to fight
dinner.
for him.
And
yeah, that's really funny too, because like you were saying, the other guys are all eating their meals, and then they get up to fight, but that whole time Billy is still sitting at the table eating his meal.
He's like, I'm not putting down these noodles. No
right.
way,
So they'll
man.
cut back to shots of him just continuing to eat his meal, but he's like looking really intense at the fighting
Well,
that's
dude,
going
as
on.
it turns out, he needed the carbs because it's like, I want to say this is the hardest you ever see Billy Chow like work or fight in any sequence, and it's like if you're going against Sammo, you've got to bring everything.
Yep. And he's got a toothpick in his
man.
mouth.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he's like,
and he keeps adjusting it.
Mhm.
There's so many good beats in here, and there's another great line somewhere in this fight when John Sham's character is trying to like cheer Billy on, and it's brutal. He said, "Just kill that dog's abortion."
Yeah, that's a
referring to
gross
Samo.
line.
Oh
This
man,
guy's-
dude, that's more
This
like
guy's grody.
yeah, Fight Club kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, this is a great sequence. One of my favorite little beats, and I'm sure will GIF it, is Billy Chow does the like come here Bruce Lee thing.
Mhm.
yeah.
And then Samuel's like, no, I'm gonna do that. But then it's like as soon as he he does it, then Billy's like taking his hand and they're fighting. And Billy does it again, and then Samuel brings his hand like way back to his body
Mhm.
to do like a tiny little come here.
I could
I don't
just
know, it's
watch
just so
Billy Chow
funny.
kicking people like all day.
Oh man.
His
Oh,
form
dude,
is so good.
yeah, we could make a super cut of that.
Just
Yeah.
kicks.
Yep.
Just the kicks, the Billy
It's
Chow
like,
story.
yeah, it's like a combination of his height and his build
Mhm.
and his form. Like he's like got
Yeah,
this
he's like
perfect
80%
like,
legs.
yeah, this Muay Thai like kickboxer like perfect body. Like it's super cool. And like just like how mean he always looks when he's doing
Yeah, the look
stuff.
of his face too. It's like it's like these really angular, like sharp features.
Yeah, and these like sunken eyes.
Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, Samuel gets really bruised up, and there's a couple of cool like POV shots of him getting hit in the face, like Billy punching to the camera, and then Samuel getting hit like from a POV like shot. That's really cool, and just like oh man, so I really like that like whole like decisive attack of Samuel doing this kind of sway into like this soccer
Yeah.
like bicycle kick.
Reverse kick. Oh, it's amazing.
It's crazy. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then he does like this like pursuit Tekken move where he like leaps into the air and like attacks him on the ground, and that's like what puts him out.
Yeah.
Oh man, beautiful, beautiful, really crazy. But the other thing we never mentioned is that Chung Fat is also one of the goons in this film, and he's
Oh yeah.
not really used that much, but he has this
Yeah,
really
not
like
really.
classic kung fu movie character look. He's got this pencil
Oh, totally.
mustache with the slick back hair and like traditional outfit, and he was the one fighting against Meng Hoi after Mr. M ran off.
Well, and
and
he's
then-
kind of holding him as a hostage. with,
Yeah.
this
So
sword,
he's got
yeah.
this sword and he's holding him hostage, but then what happens is John Sham's father, like he like interrupts and he's able to break free, and then Chung Fat and Meng Hoi crash to the ground, which is kind of a cool stunt. There's a big like really gaudy looking carpet that they land on that you can see that
Yeah.
there's mats underneath, but it's still, I mean, I wouldn't be jumping off no balcony, so
No.
it still looks pretty cool.
Yeah, my gosh. Yeah, no, it's funny. It's I feel like it happens a lot with Chung Fat, where it's like he's got this really striking look, but is a little bit underused as far as like an action performer. I mean, honestly, Magnificent Butcher might be kind of his kind of shining moment.
Yeah.
And so this kind of results in John Sham getting he gets like knocked off of the balcony, and
Yeah.
and I like that Samuel like knocks this statue that was gonna impale him out of the way. And John Sham's
Right.
like, "Oh, you didn't have to kill me, like, or you saved me." And they're basically like, killing you is too good for you or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically like he didn't want him to have such a quick death.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, no, you deserve worse than that. And then John Sham grabs that kind of katana blade and he tries to attack them. And this is what really like sets Samuel off.
Yeah,
and
Samuel
you
does
get this like,
his final move on him, and
man, like some crazy flying kicks. The first like flying kick kind of reminds me of Bruce Lee's like Fist of Fury, like end of the film.
Totally.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but it's like kind of the camera's pulled a lot tighter than in that film.
yeah.
And then he does like another like leaping kick. and
Samuel
sends
gets some
him-
great air on
Yeah.
that second
yeah,
one.
that slow mo kick to where it's like it's a close up on the back of the guy's head, and
Yeah.
hopefully of a mannequin's head, because this is a tough
Yeah.
kick.
It looks like a dude. I don't know. I mean, like we said, it's definitely not John Sham.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, whoever
Oh,
that
man.
poor stunt man is.
Yeah.
man.
and sends him through this glass we saw earlier, and we see him with like the glass sticking out of his head and stuff. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a good touch. Then the cavalry shows up.
Yep, just in time.
You got Fong and Ha Ping and Bluebeard, who they call him in the subtitles. They show up and they're like, "Oh man!" And it's funny actually. Like, we're waiting for the freeze frame, but I was surprised that Samuel's character actually addresses all the people he's killed.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, I can't leave because like."
He's like, the police will come for me.
I killed way too many people. And I was like,
it's like another unique moment of this movie. It's like, it actually, as far as the story goes, it stays pretty grounded from beginning to end.
And he gives...
oh, this is great. Yeah.
He gives Ha Ping he reaches into his pocket to give Ha Ping that jade bracelet, but you hear it like clinking around. He realizes through the whole fight, it got completely destroyed, and it's like a bunch of little just jade bracelet pieces, and he's like, you could make like an earrings with it or something. But yeah, this one Sammo says, the police are gonna come after me, like I killed a bunch of people, and Master Fong says basically I'll take the blame for this.
Yeah, but they're like, nobody will believe you. And then he has this like kind of downtrodden like, oh, why can't I be the hero?
And then that's the freeze frame.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun way to do that.
Yeah.
And then we get the end credit song. Yeah, it's a really nice moment, and it's also kind of like a return back to the kind of like freeze frame end credits that we were used to.
Yeah.
The 70s and 80s, so we don't have any kind of Jackie Chan bloopers or like Sammo behind the scenes sort of real here, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good that you mentioned that because we're in 1989 now.
But yeah, this is a super fun movie. This is definitely a movie that I think you could get a lot of enjoyment of, even if you're not particularly familiar with Hong Kong action movies.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like it doesn't depend on a lot of really specific like cultural context necessarily. Also, and it's like we're saying, it's like it's pretty grounded, kind of from beginning to end, and the martial arts too is like very connected to the story and has a lot of consequences. And just some great acting. Honestly, the only thing that and you mentioned this earlier, Matthew, that might kind of hold it back for someone that's not used to films of this period might be the score. I hate to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to knock any composer, but
it just feels like it could have elevated the movie from like an 8 to like a 10. Like it could have made a really good movie completely amazing and timeless, and instead it's just a really good movie.
Yeah.
He should have called our dude Frankie Chan. Throw his his jams into this film.
Oh man, that would have been
some
been
funky
awesome. But there was this kind of period like mid to late 80s, and even some of the more independent films into the 90s, where it's like there isn't that great of a music budget, and there's not necessarily that standard of like recorded orchestral music in Hong Kong films at this point, which is kind of interesting. And not the case as you get kind of like further on into the late 90s for sure.
But this is definitely a super fun movie. I definitely recommend Pedicab Driver, and I think that this is a pretty cool movie to end on, I think, for Sammo, because obviously Sammo's directed other stuff since then, of course, and he's been in a billion things since then. But I definitely thank you guys so much for the recommendations and everything for the
oh man, yeah,
dude, thanks. Yeah, this was so fun watching these movies, and it was like I'd put each of them in an entirely different context as part of like the larger Sammo journey. It was just great.
Yeah, super good. I gotta say, like, Prodigal Son is so amazing. Like, out of these, I mean, I had seen these last two films I was fairly familiar with, but Iron Fisted Monk and Prodigal Son were new views for me, and Prodigal Son is just...
Yeah, Prodigal Son's an amazing movie. He really is.
So good. But yeah, hopefully, the listeners really got some fun stuff out of us looking at these films. And I guess, yeah, throughout the whole year, this has still been a fun thing that we've been up to. And I can't wait to see what we do next year.
Yeah.
And yeah. So we're going to be at MagFest, like I said. So I guess not an official capacity, but we'll be running around, and I know that Marty, you're going to be pretty busy doing a bunch of stuff, and you could talk about that a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. No, it's so our our sister podcast, the Super Mercado Brothers, will be making a couple of appearances in MagFest. The band that we're in that plays kind of classic video game music, we've got a show Thursday night.
Which, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, that's a week from tomorrow. But
oh yeah, it's a week from tomorrow, and then we can post it on Twitter. But then we'll also be doing a panel during the weekend.
Okay, it should be a week from tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll get the episode up on Wednesday.
Okay.
So, anyways,
that sounds good.
Anyways, we'll do our best. I'm sorry. Continue, Marty.
No, that's great. But I'm just so looking forward to the three of us being together.
Definitely.
MagFest is one of the only occasions where that happens. And I don't know, we had so much fun last year, and I've been looking forward to it ever since. So if you happen to be there and you come across the three of us, definitely say hi.
Yeah, for sure. Or you can see me at the Super Turbo cabinet. I'll probably be playing some Street Fighter.
Oh, dude, big time. He'll be playing as Billy Chow. Also, we don't have a fixed release date yet, but a video game inspired album that I've been working on alongside Carlos, who's been developing some incredible art, also with our friend Alberto. This is Robo Girl 2 Journey of the Stars will be out by year's end. And so we'll post all about that on Twitter as soon as that's available.
Oh man, I'm so excited for it. And I gotta get working on this art, so I'm nervous about that.
Thank you so much for listening to this show. If you like the show, then please leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are Heroes, the number 3 podcasts on all 3 of them. Thank you to the Kung Fu Cinema subreddit if you're checking us out from there. And we're actually going to be taking the month of January off because of holidays and stuff. And, we just need a little break time before we dive back into it. But we will be letting you guys know as soon as we can what we're going to be diving into come February.
Yeah. In the meantime, all of you should probably catch up on the entire series of martial law.
Oh my God.
Just to do it.
It's all on YouTube.
It is all on YouTube. To really, for the full flavor, watch a little bit of the Kevin Sorbo Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess while you're at it, just to get into the mood.
Well, I think it serves like both halves of the planet, which is like the Samo fans and the Arsenio fans. And
there are two kinds of people in the world.
They overlap.
They overlap in Carlos. And
yeah, exactly. Woo, 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 woo.
Well, until next year, Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
We are the Heroes 3. Remember your training.